Had a couple of conversations recently with a new client. We're setting metrics. We've been, we were talking about, they were with another agency. They came over. We're going through onboarding, and the topic of ROAS, return on ad spend, came up. So that's typically not one of the main metrics that we look at. I was going to just ask you why.
I pay my bills out of gross profit. I always come back to gross profit. So gross profit is, basically your revenue minus your cost for that product. And it could be like, we had a term, gross profit after shipping. We actually had another term that's GPAS, and we had a GPASA, gross profit after shipping and advertising. So, but gross profit is what you pay your bills with. You get your money in, you pay for your stuff. What's left over, that's where you pay for your advertising, and that's where you pay for, your employees and your overhead and your profit. So the return on ad spend as a total dollar is completely irrelevant, because we don't know how much your product costs. Like in a digital world, okay, when there's zero cost, then that kind of makes sense. But in our world of selling automotive parts and accessories, ROAS is complete garbage, because it's apples to oranges. Like if you have a 50% profit margin on a product, okay, and your ROAS is 100, and I have a 10% profit margin on a product and my ROAS is 100, ROAS is the same, but our gross profit is vastly different. It also matters, average size of card, et cetera, et cetera. So ROAS is a industry term, because a lot of and again, I try not to throw people under the bus, but a lot of the agencies, they've never actually operated a buy-sell type business. They're only in marketing. They haven't experienced it. They can't even relate to paying your bills with gross profit, what's left afterwards, and what percentage of it. Like, okay, so here's how we did it. Gross profit after shipping. So how we looked at it is, if I have a dollar amount in ad spend, if I spend $1,000 in ad spend, I want that $1,000 to be a certain percentage of my revenue based on what my gross profit is for that type of campaign. So if I'm selling wheels and my wheels have a 20% margin, okay, then absolutely we know that if my advertising spend is 20% of my revenue, I have spent the entirety of my gross profit on advertising, leaving me nothing left to pay the bills and profit in my pocket, right? So, so the gross profit after shipping, if my gross profit after shipping on wheels is 20%, which is good in a lot of cases, I think, for that category, then my advertising as a percentage of revenue has to be significantly less than 20. Now, if I'm going to say, hey, I need to account 10% for overhead, 5% for profit, so I can have 5% of for this category for ad spend, okay, then that's where I get my number from. So if I'm spending it, and you spend the money first, so the return on ad spend is an after the fact thing. But if you want to set your goal, right? So for every 1,000 in spend, I need what? Whatever that is divided by 0.05, 20,000 in revenue. So if I know my goal ahead of time, then I don't have to wait till the end of the month or end of the quarter to look back and do the percentage of after the fact. So for every $1,000 I spend in ad spend, I need to sell $20,000 in wheel packages, or else it's not profitable.
Right. So every time we onboard a new client, that's the first questions we ask. Well, not the first, but one of the first things we do when we're onboarding and setting up new campaigns, or tweaking and auditing campaigns, is what's your profitability for these categories? What's your margin for this? And we segment based off of that. We will have different campaigns for different types of products. We don't lump everything into one basket. And a lot of times people are caught off guard by that.